In this video, we're going to talk about some good news and some bad news and some, well, odd things that are out there. So stick with me and I'll be with you in a minute. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and we're going to start out with a little bit of good news here. This Georgia church pays off $1.6 million in medical debt for needy families. And this came out on April 19th, which is when I'm recording this. So, yeah, isn't that just a great thing to hear about? Because they know that these people have needs and the church stepped up. So along with patients being admitted to hospitals for COVID-19, many people are still going to the hospital for the same reasons before the pandemic started. As a result, the medical bills for these patients are starting to increase, and for many people, money is hard to come by during these times. In order to share some love, a church in Acworth, Georgia is picking up the check. And so Freedom Church has donated over $1.65 million to cover any medical costs for about 1,043 families in Bartow, Paulding, and Cobb counties, according to Fox 5 Atlanta. The church has been working with an organization called RIP Medical Debt. The organization pays pennies on the dollar for lapsed medical debt and work to release people from them. So that's great that they've been doing that. It's wonderful that they can help these people reduce their debt and give them a little bit of a leg up on life. So I always like hearing what the churches are doing right now. It's kind of a sad fact, it seems like, that many churches have abdicated their responsibility to the poor, and they have instead pushed it off on some government organization in their community instead of actually having a food pantry and giving the money directly to some of these people and providing for their needs. I understand sometimes it's more economical to do it a different way, but I wish more churches would step up to the plate like this. So that was some good news. Let's get into some, check it out. Illinois Governor Pritzker secretly bought medical supplies from China, and the White House is not happy. Yeah, of course not, because Trump does not want people buying medical supplies from China. Why? Because China's profiting off of this whole thing. Have you noticed? Yeah, so China has the problem and doesn't tell the rest of the world, so now the rest of the world has to go to China to get the help to fix the problem China caused in the first place. So this is why President Trump doesn't want them going to China and getting things from there. Besides, the Chinese goods are substandard and sometimes not at all going to be helpful and may even be very unhelpful. So he really would like for them to stay within the United States. And this guy right here, he's the Illinois Governor Pritzker, and he has reportedly spent over $1.7 million on flights bringing medical supplies from China in secret, out of fear the Trump administration would seize the cargo for the federal stockpile. No, what you don't get is the reason they don't want people getting it from China is, first of all, the money needs to go to our economy, and secondly, it's substandard stuff. So that's why he doesn't want them going there. But see, they hype it all up. They make it sound like, well, here's the problem. This poor governor, he's just trying to do what Trump wants him to do. No, Trump said, if you have problems getting the material you need, you contact us and we'll get it for you and then channel it to your state. And that's not what this guy is doing. And so this is kind of one of those type things from Forbes, but what do you expect? It is Forbes. But I thought I'd bring that to your attention, especially if you live in Illinois. I'm sorry. The sad thing is, in Illinois, I know a lot of people from there, and the majority of the state in actual physical land is Republican. But you got that one big city that kind of blows it all. So, it really is something that we need to start thinking about, because there are a lot of states that are starting to be this way, where a big portion of the land and a lot of the people are conservatives, but they have no voice because there's this one city that takes control over everything. And that's where the problem is, because the city has liberal values. And, I'm not sure. Maybe it was the way that liberals have planned it, that they would take over one big city, and that way, they could rule the state through that one big city. But anyway, so I thought I'd bring that to you. And then we're going to talk just a little bit about the meat prices, the meat processing plants, etc., etc., etc. Well, you've probably heard that these food processing plants, there's a few of them that have had to shut down because of the problems they've had. But check this one. As we pointed out earlier in the week, China-owned Smithfield Foods. Have you heard that on the news? I watched a news report on this tonight, and you know what? Didn't mention anything about China owning it. Now, what advantage do you think it would be for China to shut down one of our largest pork processing plants? Don't you think that would be an advantage to them? I'm telling you, I don't think this was a coincidence. I think there's a reason why it was China owned. Now remember, when I'm talking about China, I'm talking about the Communist Party in China. Most of the people who live in China have nothing to do with the Communist Party, and they probably don't even support it, but they have no way out. So, keep that in mind. I have nothing against people who are from China. It's just their government is really not doing them any favors and not doing the world any favors right now. But anyway, so this is the article by Zero Hedge, and it talks about the various aspects of it. Well, if there are more closures, this could be a real problem. And so we've got to kind of keep tabs on that, definitely. But I want to show you this, because this is from the We Are the News site, and this particular researcher, and remember these researchers are off of this board right here, and this particular researcher pointed out these things about the meat shortages, but also had, and gave a couple links here, but also down here put in something from an acquaintance in Texas who is a cattle nutrition specialist. Been in the business of beef production for 30 plus years. He's a solid dude, knows his field thoroughly, has spoken at many national and international conventions on cattle raising. I trust him. Okay, this is what the researcher says. And again, all the researchers, remember, are anonymous, so you can't vouch for the individuals. So when I give you this is someone's opinion, what someone has heard. I'm not saying it's 100% true. I'm just putting it out there for you. There have been a couple of plants that have temporarily closed due to CV infections. Likely they will reopen in the near future. Other processing plants, poultry, swine, have also closed. There is no shortage of beef production from our own farmers, ranchers, in addition to the fact that Congress is once again allowing the importation of beef from countries like Brazil. This is not a good thing since it is hurting our domestic production prices. They are doing this as a concession to our good friends in the UN. He's being sarcastic here. Something to consider, a big meat processor, beef, will kill 2,500 to 4,500 head per day. If they shut down for 10 days, for instance, that means there are, on average, 35,000 head of cattle that will not be slaughtered during that time frame. So they will continue to be fed and continue to grow, averaging, say, 3 pounds per head per day gain. So at the end of the 10-day period, there will be around 75,000 pounds of extra beef now available. So again, this is not a production problem. Well, no, it's not, but there are other factors that fall into this. Now, my dad is kind of an expert in the processing part of it, okay? And he told me today, we were discussing this, and he said that the problem they have is that some of these slaughterhouses have very strict size that they want these animals in. Like, for instance, if they want a hog, they may put a limit on how big that hog can be, how many pounds it can weigh. And if they go over that, then the farmer is actually penalized for that particular animal. So they want to try to keep them under a certain amount, within a certain range is what they want to do. And so you kind of got to wonder if in this case the cattle are still gaining weight, will the slaughterhouse then come back and say, oh, sorry, it's too big now. I'm going to really dock what I'm going to pay you. So it's not quite as easy as what this says, but in some ways it is true. When it comes to the cattle and the hogs and the all different kinds of meat, the poultry and everything, the animals are still there. The animals are still being fed. The animals are still growing. So the meat is technically still there, but processing it is a huge part of it, because there are very few people who are willing to go out and actually, process their own beef. So you need to have that extra step. And these big meat processors, that's a huge part of our economy right there. That's where our meat comes from. So I don't know what the solution is going to be. I don't know what's going to happen here, but it all depends on how these plants keep going. And if we have plants that are owned by China, they very well, in their own interests, could shortchange us and close those plants so that later on they could say, well, we've got a bunch of meat here you can have, and try to sell us the meat, because that's exactly what they're doing with all these medical equipment things. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out to you. I thought it was an interesting topic. And so, yes, the animals are still there, but if we can't process them, then there is an issue. And yes, they do keep growing, and hopefully we can process them soon. But let's see how the slaughterhouses work, because if they are going to play the game where they're going to say, oh no, those are too big, now we can't, we can't pay you the same price on them, that's not going to be good. So I hope that isn't what's going to happen, but keep your ear out for it, especially if you're a farmer. Anyway, then I wanted to show you this, because if you watch the wonderful little afternoon, it's almost become like an afternoon sporting event. You watch this, and some reporter's gonna tick Trump off, and it's just, there's gonna be something, he's gonna smack him down. I love it. It's too funny. I love watching it though. Well, today, and when I'm recording this, is the 19th, and yep, there was this one who was from CBS. The problem is they don't just ask questions. They sit there and try to lecture the president of the United States. And this is what they were doing when Sarah Huckabee Sanders was in there. They would do the same to her. They wouldn't ask questions. They were using it to grandstand and to put out their ideas and to just take over things. That's why they stopped doing them, because that's what the press was doing. Well, you got to get President Trump in there, because he's really good at saying, nope, we're not going to do this. You're not going to act that way when I'm here. Well, the other day he said, I'll just walk out. I'll leave, and you can talk to somebody else. And that made him kind of sit up and behave themselves a little bit better. But anyway, this one kept interrupting, and they just keep talking. And he told her, keep your voice down. And so, guess what? If you look at this, again, these people, you got to look into them. And she was claiming that it was spreading like wildfire in the country in February. And it's like, no, it wasn't. But check it out. Here's her bio off of CBS News. And look down here. She has some interesting stories that she's covered in the past. Kind of a trifecta here that some of you might be familiar with. Before coming to CBS News, she was a general assignment reporter and fill-in anchor at WCBS TV in New York, where she covered, look at this, she covered Superstorm Sandy, and then this one right here, that I'm not going to say because, they don't like that, and then this one, which, again, not going to say, but you can read it there. So, yeah, she's kind of got the trifecta there. I thought that was interesting. And she was born in China, but she moved here very young, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, they have these ulterior motives. Infiltration, that is what they're doing. So, anyway, that was just an interesting exchange. And then I wanted to show you this one. This is one of President Trump's tweets, and this video is brilliant. I'll leave the link down below, just like I always do. It's in the description. If you're on a mobile device, you click the little triangle thing, and it'll pop it open. And this goes through and just destroys the liberal narrative on what's going on with this virus. So excellent, excellent video. You need to watch it. I'm not going to play it because it has music in it. And when it has music, I don't know if it's out there and it's royalty free or not. And so I don't want to take any chances because with music, they're really picky. So I will leave this though so you can watch it. It's really good. And then I wanted to show you this because you knew this was going to happen. Somewhere, somebody was not going to enforce the laws when it came to a certain religion. And that's the case. So yeah, Christians are fined for sitting in their cars in a parking lot listening to their radio. But hey, we're not going to stop these guys from going in. Oh, look at that. They don't look like they're 6 feet apart. Do they look like 6 feet apart to you? I don't think so. But yeah, this guy thinks because he put up this plastic thing and it's sucking the air out every so often that's going to make it okay. All right. Okay. But still, and they only let 10 in at a time, if that many show up. It does say that. So, interesting article. But I'll leave the link down below. You can read that. Now, this one I'm going to have to be very, very careful what I say. I can't say this word. So, V. And this particular article, I'm not going to be able to link to because it uses this word in the link. And the powers that be are not real happy with you doing that. So, I'm not going to talk much about it. I will show you what the URL is. So if you want to go to this article, here is what it looks like. Here's how you go to it. So you may just have to pause it and type it in on your own. So sorry about that, but this is a really touchy thing. So I want to be real careful about it. I can't say that this is 100% true, but it does seem to make sense that there's an issue with this and it changes, this particular V changes the DNA. And so it says they'll permanently alter your DNA. And this is something that's very concerning to me, because that once it's changed, it stays changed. And so I don't know why this is what they're considering, but as I read through this, if you know anything about crops and the modification, that they're doing, the genetic modifications on those, when they have the corn and they want to keep it from being attacked by bugs of any kind or anything, then they used to spray it with Roundup. Well, they decided instead of spraying it with Roundup, they'd take the basic makeup of the corn and splice it in with the basic makeup of Roundup. And so when you see these treated seeds and everything, which there's a whole story about those because they're patented. A farmer that plants those does not really own his crop in a lot of ways. He can't keep any of the seeds for next year. And that is just a horrible thing. So, but there's just a whole lot about that. And we're not going to talk about it in this particular video. But the deal is they take this gene and they splice it in. And so the corn actually becomes part Roundup. And this is what's happening. When I read through this, it reminded me of exactly the same thing. That the person then would have this be part of them. And you don't know how that's going to alter your life forever. You would never be able to undo it if that was done. And so I think they'll undergo permanent and unknown genetic changes. And I think this is very concerning, especially if you are planning on having children in the future. You don't know what would be passed on. You don't know how it would work. And how long would it be for them to actually test it so it would be safe? It'd be years. And how are they going to end up testing it? Somewhere along the line, it's got to go to human trials. So I just think this is one of them that you might want to keep your eye on. Again, I can't say this is 100% accurate or this is what's going to be, but I think they did a good job of laying it down here. And some of it is more medical than I have the expertise to verify. So if you have a medical degree, if you're involved in that profession, you might want to read through this and see what you think of it. I'd be interested in hearing your opinion on it. So, like I said, you're just going to have to go to the link on your own, but that's what it is. And then this one was given to me actually by C. Mitchell on Twitter. And this is a chip party. Yeah, they're chipping themselves so they can go through then and just wave their hand in front of a device and it'll, pay for things that way. So it's a chip party. And evidently it was done on the Today Show if you watch through it. I actually saw something, several years ago now, probably 10, maybe 15 years ago, where on the Today Show they had a family there that was chipped for their health issues. All their medical records went into this biochip of some kind. So it is becoming more and more prevalent, and I just don't think I want to be part of that. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention. Then I wanted to show you this because I think this is a pretty good question that I'd never thought of until I saw it. Should the federal government ban any Chinese company from buying any American company filing for bankruptcy due to the disaster caused by the Chinese deadly coronavirus? I hadn't thought of this, but they did it with the medical supplies. They may be going to do it with the beef and other food stuff. What happens if they do this? This could be disastrous if they step in and they start buying up all these companies that are going to be filing for bankruptcy, because this is going to happen. This could be huge. So keep your eye on this too. Great job, Kevin Haddad. I think that is a very, very good question. And then I wanted to show you this from Montana County demands people wear government-issued armbands to do business. You won't be able to buy or sell without this government armband. Very interesting. And so, they're talking about having people turn in. The health department even issued a script to warn customers to flee, saying, "You are violating our governor's and Valley County's health officer's orders. I am happy to shop for you with curbside delivery. I will get the items for you and bring them to your car. If you don't cooperate, you will force me to call law enforcement." And here's the document. I mean, really, at what point do we Americans say, enough is enough, we're not going to do this? This steps over the line, way over the line. So, yeah, there we are. I don't know if any of you are from Montana, but wow. And it appears that it's just this one county. But still, government-issued armbands. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. And then I wanted to point this out to you because, this is global. Minuscule traces of virus in non-potable Paris water. Kind of makes you think, watch the water, right? Yeah. So this is kind of concerning. Now, this is the non-potable, so it's not the stuff they drink. But if that has it in there, then what about the drinking water? Now, it was only in 4 of 27 samples collected, but still, they found some. And that's the water, it says here. That's water drawn from the Seine River, and the Ourcq Canal is used to clean streets and to water the greenery in the city's parks and gardens, currently closed to the public, as well as supplying their ornamental fountains. So, fountains. Hey, yeah, let's get a homeless person to jump in a fountain, and there you got it. So, anyway, I thought I'd share that with you because this is global. Keep that in mind. It is global. And then I've got to do this for those of you who follow the 17th letter of the alphabet. Guys, I got to clarify something because I see way too many people in the comments jumping to a conclusion that's not true. The 17th letter of the alphabet did not say the first indictment was going to shock. Okay? What's going to shock people is going to be when they find out what really happened. The indictment will have to come first. And so the indictment, all it does is trigger mass population awakening. So it's going to be something where the population goes, oh, something really did happen. And people are going to start to see the corruption at that point. So it's still very possible it's Comey. It could very well be some of the other names that you've named. I'm not saying that it's not gonna be. Eventually they will be. I just think that right now, because of how divided our country is, that if they arrest some of the big names first, what's going to happen is a huge outcry from those on the left. And it could end up a lot of violence. People get hurt, people die. We don't want to see that. So I think this is going to just be the big marker that's really going to expose things. Who will it be? Hey, Brennan is a good candidate too. We definitely know that Kevin Kleinsmith, somebody pointed that out, and thank you for reminding me of that. Kevin Kleinsmith is going to be indicted. We know that. He's the one that changed the information, so we know for sure he's going to be indicted. But as for the others, just please be very careful when the 17th letter of the alphabet is saying something. Don't read more into it than what he said, because that's how we get ourselves into trouble. So the shock part is not part of this, the first indictment. It's a separate event that will happen. So just be aware of that. I'm just letting you know. And like I said, that's 3717, and it was December 17th, 2019. So I just wanted to point that out to you. This one I think is kind of creepy. Okay? Israeli researchers show how you can steal data from a PC using fan vibrations and a smartphone. Yeah, guess what? You can have this fan vibrating in the tower over here, and it jiggles the table enough, and the smartphone can pick it up. Yeah, kind of weird. It says, though, that the transmission of the information is very slow, so it's probably not going to be something you're going to see too many hackers use. But it's still really kind of creepy to see that happen. Now they do it here, they show you a video, but all they basically do is they have this phone, and it's because of, the phone's sensitivity, whatever they do to make it so you know if it's what direction it's facing and everything. And so that particular piece of software, it can do this. It just has to be set up. I think you do have to have something on the original device, some kind of malware on there, but yeah, here it says, one of the advantages of this method is that both Android and iOS don't request user permissions to read the output of the accelerometer, that's the thing, in your phone, meaning there's no visual indication that something is going on in the background. So, thought that was kind of weird. If you're techie, you'll probably like to read that whole article. I will have that down below for you. And then, just to let you know, I like Todd Starnes. He comes up with some of the best little stories here. But he says, leftist tears. CNN's Brian Stelter wants you to know he crawled into bed and cried during pandemic meltdown. Yeah, so here's Brian's tweet. Last night I hit a wall, gutted by the death toll, disturbed by the government's shortcomings, dismayed by political rhetoric that bears no resemblance to reality. Well, that's because that's what CNN puts out. Stop listening to CNN. Then you'll have actual political information that is reality instead of this. Worried about friends who are losing jobs, kids who are missing school, and senior citizens who are living in fear. Okay, so I totally understand this. And then he says, I crawled in bed and cried for our pre-pandemic lives, tears that had been waiting a month to escape. I wanted to share because it feels freeing to do so. Now is not a time for faux invincibility. Journos are living this, hating this like everyone else. I'm sorry. You know what? I hear Mark Dice's voice. I don't know if he did one on this yet, but I'm sure he probably will. So, I understand, folks. If you are in this position where you're seeing a lot of people that you know who are in desperate need, who have, lost their jobs, who may be in bad situations with this whole sheltering in place because not everybody is living in a good, stable family situation. And so they could be, children could be in danger with abusive parents. You can have spouses that could get just more abusive during this time, and there's no way to get away from them. So I understand that there are some very serious things that are out there. You have bills facing you. You don't have the money. I do understand, and my heart goes out to people that are dealing with that. But Brian Stelter, just don't think that he is. And I think most of it for him comes because he believes what they're putting out. And it's a pack of lies. And if that's all I ever heard and that's what I believed, I would be pretty depressed too. Of course, they don't rely on God either. And for me, my faith is what always gets me through, because no matter what happens, God is still good. So I have that faith. I know he's going to work things out eventually for my ultimate best. So I'm confident in that. But when you don't have that hope, it would be very difficult. And so I understand, but I think he was a little bit of a drama queen here. So I wanted to point that out to you. This right here just was the funniest part. Dismayed by political rhetoric that bears no resemblance to reality. Stop listening to CNN. So anyway, and then I came across this one that you might be interested in hearing. Bill Clinton, of course, says, "Today I am thinking about all those who lost their lives 25 years ago in Oklahoma City, their loved ones, and everyone whose lives changed forever that day." And then this person responded, "I'm still wondering why Oklahoma City Police Department Sergeant Terrence Yakey was murdered trying to investigate the bombing. Murrah Building held the following records related to all of these things." So, yeah, I thought that was pretty good too. So there you go. And the last thing I wanted to show you is this. In the last video, remember I talked about the Paul Revere's Ride poem? So if you're one of those people that likes to hear it instead of actually read it for yourself, I did a little reading of it. So if you want to go to this one, you can do that. This is my writer's YouTube channel that I have done virtually nothing on. And eventually, if I had the energy, I would love to have these 3 channels going. But it just takes time and energy. And politics has really taken a toll on me lately. So that's where all my energies have been directed pretty much. But yeah, this is mine. And if you want to go there, you can watch this. It's only about 6 minutes long, and it just gives a little reading of the poem itself. Nothing all big Hollywood or anything, but just a reading of it. So I'll leave the link to that below. And, so anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.